Hello folks, welcome to my video. This video was created to fulfill an assignment for my beloved lecturer, Ms. Hayati Nufus, who is currently completing her doctoral degree. And I wish the best of luck for her with all of upcoming her examinations. Okay guys, I'm Asep Sopian as one of student of law at University of Pamulang. I should like to try to explain to you about a defense memorandum. Let's start. A defense memorandum, often referred to in different jurisdictions as a defense brief, memorandum of law in support of the defense, or a pleidoy in civil law systems like Indonesia. It's just a formal legal document prepared by the defense counsel and submitted to the court. Its primary purpose is to present legal arguments, analyze evidence, and cite relevant status or case law to persuade the judge rule in favor of the defendant. Depending on the stage of the legal proceeding, a defense memorandum typically serves one of two main functions. I will mention two, and the first is pre-trial or motions memorandum, and second is post-trial or sentencing memorandums. Like I mentioned before, it's pleidoy. It's submitted after the evidentiary phase of a trial has concluded or prior sentencing, and it's arguing for an acquittal before the judge deliver a final verdict or advocating for a lenient sentence if the defendant is found guilty or pleads guilty. It's merging legal analysis with mitigating circumstance, like when the defendant's minor role in the crime or lack of prior record or cooperations with law enforcement, to appeal to the judge's sense of equity and justice. Defense memorandum is not a casual letter, like letters of apology or a character reference letter. Instead, it is a formal legal pleading and a persuasive legal brief. In the legal world, it falls under the category of an advocacy document addressed directly to a judge or a panel of judges. Okay, here's our breakdown of what kind of document it is and how it functions. I have 3 points. First, it is an officer of the court document. A defense memorandum is written by a licensed attorney or a defendant representing themselves, acting in an official capacity. It must adhere to strict formatting rules, rules of ethics, and court procedures. It's not like a personal letter. Every factual claim made in a defense memorandum must be backed up by evidence presented in court, such as witness testimony or police reports. Second, it is a form of written advocacy. The document is designed to persuade. It uses structured logic to guide the judge toward a specific legal conclusions. For example, why the defendant should be acquitted or given a lighter sentence. Instead of just asking for a favor, it uses a specific legal formula known as IREC. What is IREC? I for issue. What is the legal questions? And R for rule. What does the law say? A for applications. How does the law apply it to this specific case? And the last, conclusions. What should the court decide? And last or third, it is part of the permanent case record, and once submitted, a defense memorandum becomes an official part of the court's file. If the case is later appealed to higher court, the appellate judges will read these documents to see what arguments were made during the original trial. A defense memorandum is a structured legal document, while the exact formatting can vary slightly depending on the jurisdictions, such as a federal court in the USA versus a district court in Indonesia. But its standard defense memorandums always contains by the following core elements. First, case captions. It's located at the very top of the first page. This formally identifies the case so the court clerk knows where to file it. It includes the name of the court, the title of the actions or party involved, and the unique case or docket number, and the title of document itself. And second, it's containing by introductions or preliminary statement, a brief one of two paragraph opening that summarize who the defendant is, what the memorandum is about, and the ultimate relief being requested. It gives the judge an immediate snapshot of the defense positions before they dive into the details. And three, statement of facts. This section provides a narrative of the event that led to this charge, written strictly from the defense perspective. And the role of evidence. Every factual assertion made here must be directly tied to evidence already on the record. For example, citing a specific page of a police report, a transcript of a witness depositions, or a physical exhibit. And it's objectively preferable. It must be factually accurate. Lying to the court is a major ethical violation, but it frames the narrative to highlight gaps in the prosecution story, makes it timeliness or mitigating circumstance. 4. Statement of the issues. Question presented. A concise list of the specific legal questions the defense wants the judge to answer. For example, whether the physical evidence says it from the defendant's vehicle must be suppressed because law enforcement conduct a search without a warrant or without valid consent. 5. Argument, the core legal analysis. This is the most critical and heavily detailed sections of the memorandum. The defense attorney breaks down the case into specific points of law, typically using headings for each point. Lawyers usually write these sections using the IRAC formula, like I mentioned before. For the example, issues state the specific legal problem and role, cite the controlling law, status, constitutional amendments, or past case precedents. Applications of analysis interweave the rules of law with the facts of the case to show why the law favors the defendants, and conclusions explicitly states what the legal outcome of that specific point should be. And 6. Mitigating factors. If the memorandum is meant to argue for a lower sentence, like plaidoy, this section humanizes the defendants. It includes lack of prior criminal record, cooperation with law enforcement, or expressions of remorse, personal backgrounds, like such of poverty, mental health struggles, or being a victim of coercion or duress. Family obligations, being the sole breadwinner or caregiver. 7 is conclusions or prayer for relief, or we say in law, petitum. The final paragraph that explicitly tells the judge exactly what action the defendant is asking the court to take. Like, for the reasons stated above, the defendant respectfully requests that this court grant the motions to dismiss all charges, or the defense respectfully requests that the court impose a sentence at the lowest end of the applicable guidelines. And the last 8 is just signature block and date. The date of submissions, the signature of the lead defense attorney, the attorney's print name, law firm details, bar associations, identification number, and contact information. Okay, after my explanation about everything about Play-Doh before, and here we come to my opinion. From legal and systemic standpoint, the defense memorandum is one of the most critical instruments in the justice system. It represents the structural backbone of the defendant's right to the process. And here is my perspective. I will share you 3 points that I noted before. First, it levels the playing field. The state or the prosecutions inherently possesses vast resources, police force, state investigators, forensics lab, and the authority of the government. A defense memorandum is the primary mechanism that forces this powerful apparatus to stop and justify itself. It ensures that a case is decided based on the strict boundaries of law, rather than just the state's accusations. 2. It acts as a constitutional filter. Judges are human like us, and court dockets are often severely overloaded. A well-drafted defense memorandum acts as a sharp analytical filter. It cuts through the emotional noise of a crime and forces the court to look at clinical, constitutional realities. Like, did the police cross the line? Did they violate the right? Is the evidence actually there? Without these memorandums, procedural shortcut by law enforcement would frequently go unchecked. And last but not least, it humanizes the case file. In post-trial or sentencing memorandums like Play-Doh, for example, the Soekarno-Hatta airport case, the defense memorandum performs an essential human functions. To the court, a case can easily become just a number on a docket or a set of dry. The memorandum allows the defense to inject context such as extreme poverty, manipulations by international syndicate, or lack of prior criminal history, reminding the judge that they are sentencing a human life, not a file. And my last word, a defense memorandum is not a tool to get someone off on a technicality. It is the operational mechanism of the presumption of innocence. Its true value lies in ensuring that the law is applied correctly, transparently, and fairly to everyone, regardless of the severity of the accusations. That's all. Thank you for watching. Please comment below share, and subscribe.
After